Just who might you be? What are you doing here?
I'm Dorothy Gale.
Dorothy Gale.
What's happened to the Scarecrow?
Come nearer to me. The Gnome King took the Scarecrow and all the emeralds back to his mountain and turned everyone else to stone. You will be rather attractive. One day. Not at all beautiful, you understand, but you'll have a certain prettiness. Different from my other heads. I believe I'll lock you in the tower for a few years till your head is ready. And then I'll take it.
I believe you will not.
She does lock her in the tower.
She doesn't get her head, though.
She does not get her head, though. We're going to talk about Return to Oz today. Pete, let me ask you the first question.
Okay.
You weren't sure if you'd seen it or not before.
That
was
the first question. You said, no, that wasn't a question. That was a statement. Let me ask you the first question. I know how these things work.
You're not going to trick me.
Yeah, you know what? Real quick. I heard...
I can't just get an answer to my question.
Hold on. You didn't ask me a question. You said a sentence. But anyway, a statement. Anyway,
No,
I'm going to forget. God damn it. Matthew Lillard is coming back to Scream, I heard.
Yeah, that was months ago.
No, I just heard about it. How is he? Is he going to be a ghost like Billy's a ghost? Are we going to get the Ghost Scream movie I've been hoping for?
Maybe, because Scott Foley's coming back too.
Who is Scott Foley?
Who is Roman Bridger in 3. Sidney's brother.
Okay.
Nobody knows what they're doing, but the only word I saw was trust Kevin Williamson, because he's the one making the movie.
All right.
And he's got a really...
It's going to be a ghost fight. It's going to be all their kids, and their ghosts are going to be riding on their shoulders. Oh,
and Joel McHale was cast as Sidney's husband,
right.
Because...
he's the bad guy in this one.
It's not Mark, the police officer. I'm guessing solely because Patrick
Dempsey?
Patrick Dempsey decided I'm not coming back.
What?
Or maybe they didn't want to pay him.
He got that Grey's Anatomy money, and he's too good for Scream?
He did Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah, he did do that. Then whatever.
And he also, I want to point this out because it's crazy. He won People's Sexiest Man of the Year that year. I don't know how. I don't know what he was doing.
Year? It was for Thanksgiving, man.
I guess so.
Remember that hat he put on?
I think they fell in love with his part-time Boston accent. It's the sexiest part-time Boston accent I've ever heard.
Yeah. At least that movie with Nicolas Cage where he has the Boston accent, he has it the whole time.
That was the one that made me, other people crazy because Glenn Powell had busted out big as like the hottest guy in Hollywood, and they gave it to Patrick Dempsey, who had made Thanksgiving at the end of the year. It was wild. Wild stuff. Speaking of wild stuff, Pete, as my question that ended the previous statement.
Yes.
Had you seen this before?
You know what, Brian?
You don't know.
I don't know.
Right.
Feruza Balk was in it, but I have vague memories of her. Was this her first role?
Yes.
I think it was because it said introducing in the credits, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I kind of remember her. I definitely remember the claymation 100%, but that's just a lot of the Vinton stuff. And I can go into that later, but the claymation is great in this. I don't remember the heads. I don't remember that at all. I
don't think you saw it.
That was a fun little creepy thing.
I don't think you saw it. You don't forget that hallway of heads if you...
No, I guess not. That is a pretty cool thing to throw into the middle of a kid's movie.
This is not a kid's movie. This is
But it seems like it should have been, right? Like The Wizard of Oz was not a grown-up movie.
So, where do I start with Return to Oz? I saw this in theaters at the age of 6.
Ooh.
Wizard of Oz is not the first movie I remember seeing. I don't know what the first movie I remember seeing is. There's a bunch jumbled together that memories of seeing them. I remember going to see Ghostbusters at the Drive-In in 84. I remember going to see Gremlins in 84.
I remember The Secret of Nim.
I'm sure I saw movies before that, and I'm sure one of them was Wizard of Oz, because The Wizard of Oz is the first movie I remember seeing twice. And that is an important distinction, because now I remember the movie, not just the experience of seeing the movie, by the time I'm seeing Return to Oz at the age of 6. So it's the first time I'm seeing something where I'm familiar with the character. And I have an interest in the character.
A sequel.
But it's not, but it is. I come in caring about a character. And then I see this movie.
Now, this is not what I expected in the Return to Oz. You have told me before on many occasions that this movie genuinely frightened you as a child.
Yeah.
The only thing you told me about, though, was the pumpkin guy, Jack.
Yeah.
Because
Who's not scary in the movie, but he's terrifying to me.
you know what's creepier than Jack? He's creepy. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, is it the moose head on the couch?
Also,
there's so many things you can pick.
Right. No. It's the fucking scarecrow.
Oh, yeah,
I don't
I
know
know
if
that
the
too.
scarecrow was creepier in the original because I'm not that familiar with the Wizard of Oz.
I thought about
canon.
this too, because he does look scarier, but he looks more man-like in the original. I think that's kind of actually creepier.
See, I don't remember. And I was wondering if I don't know.
This isn't a real sequel. It's based on books in the series, but
I don't know what
it's made by a different studio. It's not supposed to be, in theory, how they sell it because they don't want to get sued. Because Wizard of Oz books are public domain. The Wizard of Oz is owned by MGM,
Okay.
the movie. So they're like, no, this is based on these other books. Dorothy continues to be a character in some of them, so we can use that. You didn't invent Dorothy. They did invent the ruby slippers, which appear in this movie. They had to pay MGM to use the ruby slippers because they weren't a part of the original books.
Oh, okay.
They created those because they wanted him to pop off the screen because they were doing their Technicolor. So she had silver shoes in the books, and I believe in Wicked. They're silver shoes. They're not ruby.
Okay.
So they pay MGM for that. And they also take from MGM the idea that, and this is one of the most fucked up things always about The Wizard of Oz, because this isn't in the books. There is no real world in the books. There's Oz.
So
Dorothy blows in, but you don't see Dorothy
in a home life.
You don't see the home. You don't see the real world. Where this movie posits, I think, fairly strongly that she is just a sick little girl who bumped her head.
Well, that was kind of the narrative in the first one, from what I remember,
correct.
right?
'Cause you said it's not a scary movie, not an adult movie. And I'm like, it kind of is, honestly. Not like this.
No, this is. I really enjoyed this movie, just for the creepiness. It's not one that I'm going to put on all the goddamn Wheelers.
Well, do you just want to do this? Like, you name things in the movie and then we're done? Or do you want to talk about the movie?
All right, go ahead.
Return to Oz was a box office bomb.
The prison.
Yes. With detergents. And
I guess I never watched it.
he was Chet in the TV version of Weird Science.
Oh my god! Not Bill Paxton.
And then he gets butt fucked by J.K. Simmons in Oz because HBO is prestige television.
Good for J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, he was a neo-Nazi guy.
Oh, I take it back. Boo, J.K. Simmons. Go back to being J. Jonah.
Yeah, the famous good guy, J. Jonah Jameson. Not at all a propaganda guy.
No, he's a real straight shooter, that one.
It was a box office bomb, and it was directed by a guy named Walter Murch. And he was one of the most respected sound designers and editors in Hollywood. He'd worked on The Godfather, The Godfather 2, The Conversation. Those are all Coppola movies, so I'm guessing other Coppola movies. And The English Patient, all the way up to then. He won a bunch of Oscars. And he's still alive. So I want to say something to this man right now.
Careful, that's a rarity for someone who gets mentioned on this podcast.
Something I want to say to this man. How dare you? How dare you? Because I watched some documentaries on this after the fact.
Okay.
And I want to respect him for getting his vision on screen, but I owe him 40 years of trauma.
What part messed you up so terribly? Because I just watched this. I'm not a child, but, I watched it.
Well, Pete, let's do something we rarely do, and I'm just going to read through what happens in the movie.
All right, yeah.
And then you can comment on it.
I like it when you give me a synopsis because I frequently don't remember these movies.
So I'll go to hit play on this movie. It's on Disney Plus if you want to enjoy it with your child. Make sure they are very familiar with The Wizard of Oz first. It's really going to make it better for them if they're familiar with Dorothy Gale. So I hit play, and I'm thinking, of course this isn't scary. It's stupid. It's a PG-rated Return to Oz movie from 1985. What could it possibly be? And then the music starts, and I get a legitimate shiver down my spine because apparently this trauma is so deeply ingrained in me that just the opening title sequence, I'm like, oh no.
Ooh,
I'm scared of this movie.
That repressed dread, that's always a fun one.
It's in there. And it's like, okay. First thing you see is the new Auntie M, played by the terrifying mother from Carrie, Piper Laurie. So I'm doubled in on, oh no, wait a second. And I'm like, but it's a Disney movie. She's going to be nice. She's not nice, Pete. She's so tired of Dorothy not sleeping well that she's going to take her for electroshock therapy in 1899.
That's what it was. I wasn't sure, but that's exactly what it was. Boy, that was a rough beginning. Go on.
So they take her to this mental institution. They abandon Toto in the middle of nowhere. I'm an adult man, Pete, and I'm terrified already of what's happening in this movie because I don't remember anything really, except I remember it in my soul that I'm not going to enjoy this movie. And Dorothy says something interesting on the way to the clinic where she's going to be abused.
Doubt it.
She says, I've never been beyond Franklin before, which I'm guessing is the town they live in. But you've been to Oz. That's like the entire point of your problem with this, with living in this world. Like, you've been pretty far beyond Franklin. So she tells the doctor that she knew a tin man who used to be a real man who chopped off all the pieces of his body because a witch had cursed his ex.
Okay, see.
We're 20 minutes into this movie, and then this doctor's like, let me introduce you to this kind face machine that's going to zap your brain.
That was really weird. I don't know what else Murch has done.
This is the only thing he ever directed, Pete.
No kidding. Okay.
But I just told you what he did. He won Oscars for editing and sound design.
Okay, because this is I don't know where to go because I'm with you. It's just this beginning, and I'm still, because I watched this at night and then a little bit in the morning because I had to get it done, and I was kind of falling asleep. But it sure seemed like he was introducing the girl to a electroshock machine in a weird way, and that nurse was over the top mean and creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the Wizard of Oz sequel that begins with 20 minutes in a mental institution. But it gets so much worse.
Where? All right, keep going.
She's strapped to a gurney and hearing people screaming from the basement that we learn are the failed experiments of his shock therapy results.
Oh, yeah. And she wanted to sit up in the gurney, and they're like, no, you got to lay down. And it's like, why am I being strapped in? And you're like, oh, this is not. I don't like child abuse.
NTM takes her to this hospital, this clinic, and it's a nice room, well-dressed man, a stern but serious nurse, but they wheel Dorothy into the shady wings of the hospital. I'm pretty positive that the movie Jacob's Ladder just shot for shot remade this as part of their horror film.
Yeah. I haven't seen Jacob's Ladder in a while, but I wouldn't doubt it. This was a weird time for Disney, too, because they made these weird, creepy movies.
Well, but they didn't make them about properties like The Wizard of Oz that so many children had affection for, because we've talked before, there wasn't as much media back in the 80s. So maybe Wizard of Oz was from 39, but every kid had seen The Wizard of Oz. But they'd never seen something like Dorothy's going to get tortured to begin the sequel.
This was 84?
This is 85.
85. All right.
Luckily, a storm blows out the power before they can zap her brain, like a second before. And at this point, Aunt Em and Uncle Henry have to lose custody of this child.
Wait. She had a key, too. She
found a key that she said came from Oz. And Piper Laurie's so upset with her talking about Oz all the time. It doesn't seem like she's doing anybody any harm.
The uncle, by the way, got very strong vibes of the Psycho Gorman dad, because he seemed to be just sleeping in their house and not rebuilding it from when the tornado destroyed it.
Well, this is one of these things where it's a kid's movie, right? Except they get into like the serious discussion of how he had injured himself in the storm, and then Piper Laurie's like, not that hurt. And I'm like,
yep, as he was sitting there like sleeping in the skeletal building of his house.
Yeah. It's also dealing with the really big fallout of their house having blown away because it's an Oz.
Oh, that's right. It's an Oz. That's because they come to it. She finds it. All right, go on.
She's saved by another girl in the hospital who, like in the original movie, will have a avatar in the Oz world. All these characters pretty much do. The nurse is Princess Mombi. The doctor is the Gnome King.
Yeah. I didn't catch any of that.
And the girl is Princess Ozma. And they're escaping during a storm, and I'm pretty sure she just drowns.
Yeah, where does she go?
I'm pretty positive she drowns saving Dorothy.
I completely forgot about that part, because once we get to Oz, I was just kind of like, holy shit, what is going on now? But she does drown.
Before continuing on the journey of Return to Oz, I think that the proper way to read this movie is that little girl is dead, but she can live on in Dorothy's delusions.
I thought the girl was illusionary, like a if you want to pretend that Oz is real, she was a projection from Oz, but she didn't have like corporeal form.
But then how'd she touch shit?
Did
That's
she
literally
touch
what
shit?
corporeal means. She unstraps her from the gurney.
Maybe she's able to, but you know.
So corporeal form.
She's got some kind. No. It's still she could walk through walls if she wanted to, but she can solidify.
But she never walks through a wall.
No, she didn't want
She just
to.
doesn't choose not to use this power.
Right, because she didn't want to freak out Dorothy, because Dorothy was going through some shit.
No, I think that these are the delusions of a sick girl who was injured during a storm, has brain damage, and then takes the things that scare her and puts them into a world she can defeat them.
So following that, that narrative, she gets hit by a tornado and suffers some sort of brain damage because she
Correct.
keeps talking about it. And 6 months later, the same thing kind of happens.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
consider that both times she gets there are when her life is in serious peril. And both times when she comes back, she's basically coming back from a near-death experience. This is her seeing the other side.
So it is Jacob's Ladder.
It is a Jacob's Ladder scenario, except she keeps coming back. Why did she come back? This is a question I have. She's been nothing but tortured and destroyed by the real world, but she's like at the end, like, oh, I have to go back. Like, why? Auntie M doesn't deserve you. She took you to get your brain zapped by a doctor.
Well, didn't Buffy do that in that one episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer where she's
It was
in
a
mental
remake of
hospital?
Return to Oz.
Yeah, it was, man, everyone's ripping off Return to Oz. This is a lot more important than I thought.
So Dorothy floats away in a crate during the storm.
Oh, hey, that's that thing that flies with the moose head. That was the crate.
It wasn't a crate; it was a sofa.
Yeah, but it was a reenactment of because everything has.
Oh,
a
you're trying to
corollary.
make everything be.
Because I missed it the first time. So now
Why doesn't Dorothy have one?
it was that little girl. That's why she couldn't stay at the end because the Princess Oz.
No, she couldn't stay because Ozma sent her away. Let's be clear about what happened at the end of this movie.
I don't. I'm not clear. So we'll get there though. Keep going. Keep going.
She wakes up in Oz with her chicken Belina. Don't know how she got there. That's from the book, though. She actually walks around with a chicken in the one book.
Okay.
A thing that becomes a shockingly important plot point.
I love that chicken. It's the old, the old mechanical owl
Sometimes.
from Clash of the Titans.
They had like 20 real chickens, and then they had mechanical ones for when they had to do that stuff.
For the up close stuff where the chicken starts talking to people. And that's how she figures out she's in Oz because it's perfectly normal for animals to talk in Oz.
Yeah. Well, not if the wizard had his way in Wicked.
I still haven't seen that movie.
I know.
They don't want animals to talk?
Yeah, that's one of the major plot points in Wicked. So we're 22 minutes in, I've noted, and they're in the deadly desert where any living thing that touches the sand will turn to sand. The fuck is happening?
Well, it's an effective threat. I remember those threats when I was a kid. This is probably why it affected you so much. These were the real things that I remember from the movies we watched in the 80s. The stakes were always really high for some reason.
Well, Belina's there, it seems to mostly deliver bad one-liners in the beginning.
I noted that, and I loved it. She stopped doing it.
She stopped doing it because everybody's the same sarcastic character around her.
I didn't catch that, but that's why.
Everybody's got their own quips.
They do. There's no differentiation. They all just say the same. Okay.
She gets out of the deadly desert. Munchkins are all gone. The Emerald City's destroyed. The Yellow Brick Road is destroyed. Although its sole purpose still exists, because despite it being tougher to walk, still leads directly to the Emerald City.
Well, there's not much there at the Emerald City.
I know, but why bother destroying the road? It's still serving the only purpose that it genuinely had.
I feel like the Gnome King just kind of did that since he controls dirt.
He controls rocks and dirt, yeah. He has spies that pop up in the faces of rocks. to tell him what's
Fantastically
happening.
awesome. All claymation.
She gets to the Emerald City, which is completely destroyed, and everyone's turned to stone, including the Cowardly Lion, who she just completely, hilariously to me, throughout the movie, just calls to his face the Cowardly Lion.
Oh, that's his name, see?
What was the point of the end of the first story?
Well, he didn't change his name.
It's not his name.
Yeah, but that is his name.
No,
She called him that. She wasn't saying it's not an adjective. That's his name. Cowardly Lion. I don't know what his middle name. It's like Cowardly P Lion or something. I don't know. I didn't read the books.
I didn't either. But I know at the end of it, he's not cowardly anymore because he had the courage inside himself the whole time. Because he'd just been on a journey to prove it.
It's not an adjective. It's a name. There's a difference. It's like
It's not his name.
It's like when everyone.
It's an insult. She's insulting this lion to his face.
Who's that? The actress who married the guy from the band Coldplay, and
Gwyneth Paltrow?
Yeah. Isn't there a kid named Apple or something?
How would I know that?
I believe it is.
Why would I know that?
And isn't one of Kanye's kids Northwest?
I think
Or West?
I think one of them's named Hitler. Now I think he renamed them.
He probably did. He needs his medication, and it's not funny. He really does.
Some of the statues don't have heads anymore.
So at the end, when Dorothy wins, spoiler alert, like when those statues,
Nobody wins here, Pete. Nobody wins.
I think the chicken kind of wins
Maybe.
because she gets to stay in Oz, and she's like the Queen of Oz, as near as I can tell. She shows up at the end with the medal and stuff. Oh, very much like Star Wars. But where was I going with that? Bryan, you distracted me by talking about Star Wars. That's not fair.
I didn't say a word about Star Wars.
Yeah, you didn't. Why are we talking about it? I didn't bring it up. Because of chicken. Son of a bitch. I lost it.
Beware the Wheelers is written on the wall like a Pink Floyd album cover.
Yes. I've seen the Wheelers before. I don't know.
They're from the books. There's pictures of them in the books. They look exactly like this.
Maybe, but they are the freakiest goddamn things. And I swear this makes me think I've seen the movie because I remember them. I've never read the books. Maybe I saw a picture, but I saw the Wheelers and I know the Wheelers. They went back to the Return to Neverland, right? Or the Never-Ending Story. There was a part 2 of that.
I think there's 2 more of them. But
Okay. Well, no, I'm just I think I'm confusing the movies like in my head. Yeah. Well, that's all. Anyway, I know the Wheelers, and they have wheels for arms and legs, or
Correct.
feet and hands, and their front legs or front arms are as big as their back ones.
And they have masks that they put their heads down so they look even creepier.
When they're going forward, yeah.
It's like Dorothy's being chased by the creepiest, weirdest gang in the Warriors.
I had that same exact thought. I didn't know if you had seen the Warriors.
I had. There's a real Warriors energy.
I wonder what year that came out.
I think right before this.
It definitely has that feel. It's cool though. It's so cool. This movie, the special effects were so fun in this.
Well, she comes to find out that everyone was turned to stone by the Gnome King, who has stolen all the emeralds from the city
That's what it was.
and stolen the scarecrow. And he hates chickens. I don't know.
I forgot that was a plot point.
They mentioned it 2 times, but for the monumental payoff to it, probably should have been built up better.
Nope, I loved it because it came really out of nowhere. I was like, "Oh yeah, right, I forgot about that." But those headless statues in Emerald City, when she restored everything, did you kind of hope that they would just come back with no heads and fall over?
Oh, I was watching with my hands over my eyes, so I'm not even sure what
that
happened
point?
at the entire time.
They got their head back. It was disappointing.
I only took all these notes so that I could unfocus on the film at times because I'm not kidding. I had a shiver in my spine from having watched this as a kid.
It was so much fun.
So she finds TikTok,
Yes, he is the like low rent version of the Tin Man.
except he's like far more useful. He's smarter. Now, you have to wind him. That's tough. But he had to oil the Tin Man.
That's true. But the Tin Man had a weapon.
He also takes out all the Wheelers with a spitting attack move that the Tin Man could never pull off. He could barely stay upright.
The Wheelers, terrifying though they may be, were fairly incompetent as lackeys. I think the Flying Monkeys were a better bunch of
Well,
henchmen, right? Yeah, henchmen. Hench monkeys.
she finds TikTok. He's cool. I feel safe with TikTok. He's the only character in this movie that I find no egregious, horrifying aspect to. He's got a cool mustache. Got a cool, soothing voice. I like him.
Okay.
Could have been a He-Man character. I love him.
He could have been.
He's my friend. He's the only one. Because then we meet fucking Princess Mombi. The most terrifying character of a film filled with only terrifying characters.
And it kind of comes out, it's being presented. Like that was the opening clip, right? That you played?
Yes.
Yeah. She's talking all nice and soothing.
Well, that's a nice head she's wearing in the beginning. And she realizes she must take this one off immediately.
Yep. As she's walking down the hallway with heads in jars.
Pete, we don't meet this bitch for more than 30 seconds before she's walking us down a hallway full of severed heads.
But she sounded so nice. And I was watching this when I was like kind of falling asleep because this was before I had to pause it and go to bed and then pick it up in the morning. So I'm kind of falling asleep and I'm listening to her nice, soothing voice as she's talking to Dorothy. And I kind of open my eyes and I'm like, what the fuck is going on now? So
you heard the clip. She says, "You'll be pretty one day." Well, not pretty, but whatever. And she's like, "I'll take your head too. So I'm going to lock you in the tower." She does lock her in the tower. TikTok is wound down and can't help. And she locks her in a tower where she meets Jack Pumpkinhead.
no, didn't she have a pumpkin back in Kansas? I think she did.
Sure.
All right. That's all. I'm done.
This monstrosity has his arms and legs cut off. and she has to reattach them. Let me tell you something about this Dorothy. Brave little girl. Idiot. If a talking pumpkin head man asks you to reattach his limbs, do not do this.
But he sounded like he was a friendly Pumpkinhead man. He didn't sound like, hey, I'm going to eat you if you put me back together.
I've been terrified of this Pumpkinhead man for 40 years. I told you before I drew a comic book character, a villain based off of him. This is just him now that I saw him again.
And
Because again, I haven't watched this in 40 years.
And rightly, I can see it too after I saw him
It's
in
exactly the same. It's just
That's your drawing.
I hadn't seen it in 20 years at that point, and I was still like, from memory, like this is Lord Pumpkin.
Yep.
And I've always called him Lord Pumpkin because he's
was
terrifying.
Everything in this movie is got that level of creep that is.
We're not even close to how crazy this shit gets because they're about to give life to a moose head attached to a sofa.
I don't remember why. Like,
Because they needed a ride out of there.
why the moose head? And it wasn't, what was it called?
So we could see where it's going.
It was like a grunk or something.
The Gump.
The Gump. That's right. The Gump. Why? So they could see where it's going. That's right. That was their logic. They gave it like feathers so it could fly. They tied a bunch of
So there's something called the powder of life, which is in the books too. So all these wildest things are just really taken directly from the books. There's something called the powder of life, and it's with her original head in one of the cabinets. So now Dorothy's got to sneak in to the headless body's room while it sleeps and steal a key that it's sleeping next to. Conveniently terrifying. Mm-hmm. And then she has to walk down the hallway of sleeping severed heads who all can come to life whenever.
because they're just sleeping.
She wakes the one up when she's trying to steal the powder of life, and they all start screaming at her.
Terrifying.
Pete, I'm 6 years old. Because then the headless body wakes up and starts chasing her. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. This is a fucking nightmare. Let me tell you this. I'm 45 years old. This is a fucking nightmare.
Is this movie considered a horror movie? Because I'm not going to lie, it sure seems like it should be.
I've not been embellishing any of these plot points. If anything, I've been underselling them because they're all filmed for suspense and terror.
Meanwhile,
That scene of her walking down the hallway or grabbing the key and then walking down the hallway is as effective a horror scene, and it's shot like one.
but then the movie takes you back to every character, including the chicken, just having these quippy little lines. Like the tone just shifts. You're still just shell shocked from whatever the last horrifying monstrosity you encountered was.
Gallows humor. That's what this movie is.
Oh yeah,
It's gallows humor.
It didn't seem Jack didn't seem like he had the brains to.
No, he has the child brain.
I think he probably suffers from child brain too. It is the 80s.
Anyway, they build a ride out of a moose head and furniture and then bring this monstrosity to horrible existence. And the Gump, the moose part of the Gump, jokes repeatedly about how he's died once before. He does. This is a children's movie.
Oh God! And it's a mounted Gump head that was, stuffed.
Pete, do you remember the first question the Gump asks after he's been given this unwanted existence?
Of course I don't.
What am I?
That is some Frankenstein level shit.
They escape on the sofa with the moose and these
Gump. It's a Gump.
Gump. And as they're flying away, Jack's head falls off.
Oh shit! It falls off. That's
He
right,
screams and cries the whole time.
the whole way down.
And Dorothy saves it, and then he asks if he can call her mom, which is maybe the creepiest thing in the movie because she's 10 years old.
Oh my God! And she smiles like she's happy about it. She's like, "Yes, I'm the mommy now." And it's never brought up again.
No, she calls her the whole movie, though.
No, but I thought there was going to be like a payoff or something.
There was. His real mom was Ozma.
Oh, I missed that. I completely glossed. I got it. I completely glossed over it.
Just the last woman that last child he attached his mommy fantasies to.
Who was Jack? What was Jack? He was just a friend of.
He explained it in there, but at that point, I'm pissing my pants. I gotta go clean myself up.
I think that's the problem. I was so fascinated by everything else that was happening. I don't remember any of the reasons the people are there because each new scene and each new setting, you're like, what the shit is going on now?
So the Gump's flying him out of there, and he's been alive for about 20 minutes, and his body falls off, and they break apart. This is fucking Nightmare.
So now it's just a head.
They crash on the Gnome King's mountain, which is, I guess, lucky for them.
Is it though? The Gnome King, he's the king of all the rocks we've been seeing that have faces, and they report back to him. Creepy.
Yeah, they put the Gump back together haphazardly at best. He can't fly anymore. They take those pawn furs are gone.
Yep.
Dorothy immediately falls down a hole,
That's what she does best.
and she sees the Scarecrow for like a second.
Yeah.
It was 10 times more terrifying now, I think.
Oh, 100%. Because while Jack the Pumpkin guy was creepy, this thing was horrifying. If that thing pops up, it would never be my friend. If I had seen that my first time to Oz, I would have killed that thing 100 times over. That's a monster.
Is there a commentary on politics in 1985, where Reagan was president, that the Scarecrow, the one famously without a brain, was made the king of Oz?
I did wonder how he assumed power. It was weird that the Scarecrow was the king.
Yes.
Was that explained and I missed it, or no?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, that is an interesting theory. It could have been.
Yeah, I'm taking it as a political allegory.
It probably was, based on everything else this movie has in it.
Because if I was sitting there in 85, and I've only been to 86 recently, so I can't attest to what it was like in 85. But if I was sitting there as an adult in 85 with my kid, who's probably eyes covered, shit in their pants. If I'm sitting there watching this movie and the guy without a brain is the leader, I'd be like, this is 100% targeted. And I'm here for it. But the Gnome King gives them a chance to save the Scarecrow.
The Gnome King's a bit of a dick, too.
He is. He's turned him into an ornament because he collects ornaments.
Knickknacks.
Feels like if you can create your own ornaments, you're not really collecting them, you're just creating them. He's not like going to an antique shop.
No, he's not finding them. Although maybe everyone turns into something different, so it's kind of exciting for him.
Everyone does. And everyone gets 3 guesses, and if they're wrong, they turn into an ornament themselves, which Dorothy doesn't think to ask before agreeing to the proposition.
I thought to ask. I was sitting there going, that's classic dealings with the Fae. Got to lock everything down. They're tricksy.
So who goes in first?
It's the goddamn brainless guy. Pumpkin.
Jack Pumpkinhead.
Jack Pumpkinhead himself. And
Heads
his
in there.
gangly arms.
Immediately gets it wrong 3 times.
It's like 4 seconds later.
Then they send the Gump in, and the Gump's like,
Oh, no.
kill me, I'm a monster.
They sent the Gump in first. I'm pretty sure. Like, you go in Gump.
Maybe.
He's like, I can't fucking win. I'm like, that's an interesting choice to send in first.
Whoever they sent in first.
It was the Gump.
He's like, I don't have hands. They didn't. Why am I here? What made me? Kill me, please. And he's like, use your antlers. And I'm like, how's he even walking? I'm confused by this entire.
I don't see. You
Monster.
and I have a different idea. I think the Gump was kind of enjoying his second life. He didn't seem. He always had a quip. He took over the chicken quips.
His quip was always about dying again.
Yeah.
How he died before. And
But
he's
he was
like,
okay with
died
it.
already once.
Right, cheerfully, like, let's see. I'm used to this. It's old hat.
And they send in TikTok there. Oh, it's super important that you know that the chicken is in the emptied out head of Jack Pumpkinhead. They send in TikTok, who has this brilliant strategy. It's so smart that it paying off in no way is a fascinating take on it. But we'll get to that in a second because it's important to remember that the Gnome King has destroyed Oz and done everything because he has the ruby slippers that fell off when Dorothy left Oz, I guess. I don't know how. She just clicked her heels 3 times. I guess
She transports away.
but I don't understand how she lost them in transit.
Things of Oz can't go back to the real world. They have to stay in Oz. But that's exactly how the key got to the real world at the beginning.
Yeah, I was
of this
going to
movie.
say, that doesn't make any sense.
It has to make sense at the time, Brian, and that's what happened.
Gnome King is, as we've talked before, a rock monster.
He is. I like that B-52s.
Yeah.
But he is great. He is claymation that slowly morphs into some of the very cool, just makeup and prosthetics.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Sure. Like the one at the beginning about Star Wars.
The slippers are so powerful. They can do, it's seemingly anything.
Yes.
They were originally worn by the Wicked Witch of the East, who never thought to do anything.
I thought the Wicked Witch of the East was in a wheelchair.
Sure. Oh, she couldn't click her heels together.
I mean, I don't want to be mean about it, but
Son of a bitch. I guess they were. I guess they were in a safe place.
They were. Dorothy dropped the goddamn house on her.
Damn it! All right. So TikTok walks in there and he makes a couple guesses, and then one of the spies comes and tells,
Which is just a side of a cave that turns into a face and starts talking.
yeah, tells the Gnome King he stopped moving, he stopped guessing. He's like, oh, he must have wound down. And I'm like, this is fucking brilliant because now they're both in there, and he's like, look, I'm gonna guess again. And if I'm wrong, you can see what I turn into, and maybe it'll give you a clue. And I'm like, what a brilliant way to solve this puzzle. Except he does it, and then he just flashes away, and you have no idea what he turned into.
No, because he's like somewhere else in the room. He just disappears. I was annoyed by that quite a bit.
Why do such a brilliant setup to defeat a bad guy and then not use it whatsoever?
I don't know, but that's just one of the many interesting choices this movie chose.
There is a great moment for Dorothy before this happens, when she's going to go in and be with TikTok, and before they have their conversation, where the Gnome King says, you know, you don't have to go in there. I can send you back and make you forget any of this ever happened. And she chooses to stay and save her friends, knowing that she's most likely going to spend her whole entire existence as an ornament, because that's like true heroism. And I think the best character moment in either of the Wizard of Oz movies.
Nah, that's just how kids think. They can't weigh consequences. Their brains are not formed properly yet.
She's a mother, Pete.
Oh, yeah, right. Never mind.
That's her child in there.
She has to. That's like the rules.
So Dorothy is walking around. She gets it wrong twice immediately. Just picking things haphazardly.
Yeah, that was weird.
I would have spent a second looking around the room first.
Right, but
see if there's anything I can notice.
Would you have gone back, offered the choice by a mountain creature that seems like quite a dick?
Who's in there?
I don't know. The pumpkin guy.
Oh, yeah, I'm gone. I'm like, you can send me out of this hellhole and make me forget that it ever happened?
But you're his mommy now, Brian. You're his mommy.
But I don't have to remember that. He made it part of it. You're not going to remember Oz.
Ooh, that is harsh.
All that's happened since I've been here is I've been chased by a headless body. I've been chased by these wheeler things. This pumpkin head thing has adopted me as his mother.
I keep falling down stuff.
I gave life to an inanimate object who will not shut up about dying twice. I'm out.
Oh my God.
I'm out the door. And right. Auntie M's going to be so happy because I'm going to sleep real peacefully.
I'd have gone in. I would have looked around, though. I'm not just going to touch the first thing I see.
She touches the first two things she sees. She's like, I got two to burn.
And then she closes her eyes.
Literal blind luck. She closes her eyes and I guess lets the power of Oz compel her.
You know what?
But she picks up the wrong thing and almost does it. And I'm like, this would have been a great ending to the movie.
Yeah, right. Just stop right there. It would have fit in. It would have fit in with everything else.
Then she notices that next to the thing she's picked, so the blind luck got her close, but it didn't get her all the way, is a giant green emerald.
Yep.
And she's like, I guess why not? I'll take this shiny one. And it is the Scarecrow.
And then she cracked the code. Yes. Anything with a green emerald on it is one of her friends.
Yes, I actually kind of like that.
I would have thought that was obvious by looking around for a few seconds, because everything else didn't look very interesting.
My question is, does this mean that all of the green emeralds that make up the Emerald City were once people?
Ooh. And those were the building. I don't know. I'm not a gemologist, as they say in their own trade.
When she, quote unquote, saves Oz,
I see where you're going.
Is she damning these people back to a life as a green ornament to make up the streets and structures of the Emerald City?
That is an interesting theory, because it's people that are already dead. So you're positing that they came back and they were living their best life?
I don't believe they're dead. I think they're in suspended animation, as the Scarecrow was and the Gump.
Yeah. But while he took away the Emerald City, the Gnome King, they all got their lives back because the emeralds were gone, so they turned back into people.
I don't know what he did with the emeralds because they're not in that room.
They were, it seemed like there were a lot of emeralds in the underground, though.
Yeah, my guess is those are human beings Oz characters. They're not people, I guess. I'm talking like Jack Pumpkinhead's a people. He's not a people.
Yeah, well, he's got a chicken for a brain.
He does have a chicken for that's going to pay off in a minute. Because the Gnome King is angry.
He's big mad.
But before we can get to that, we have to see Princess Mombi whipping the wheelers all the way down.
Yeah, she comes around. What was her relationship with the Gnome King? I never did figure that out. She seemed to be subservient to him.
I feel like he was a lieutenant in his crusade against Oz.
Yeah, he really hated Oz.
Oh, there's also another thing I want to say about Princess Mombi. Jack Pumpkinhead at one point says, she threw me up here, cut my arms off, cut my legs off, so I can't move.
That's just like the Tin Man from the first one, or that she was talking about
Yeah.
at the beginning.
And then he says, I guess she never wore that head again because she forgot about me. So all the heads have different memories?
Ooh, I missed that too.
So why did the somewhat kind one playing the harp when Dorothy shows up, her first thought is, I better change into an evil head?
Because
They're all evil?
Yeah, maybe. But maybe this one was too nice. Like she knew that she had to do something.
But it doesn't seem like their consciousnesses are shared. So half these heads are just the dancers outside, and they're also evil? So when she restores them, I'm not supposed to be happy?
Oh, those were the heads.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it. I just assumed they fell off through age.
No.
Like
She
weathering.
took their heads.
She took a lot of people's heads.
Killed a lot of people's mothers.
You're bringing up a lot of stuff, and it all fits. I will believe any of these theories that you are bringing, because it could be. This was a twisted movie.
Yeah, was it? The Gnome King gets giant size and tries to eat Jack Pumpkinhead. But first he eats the Gump's body.
That was horrible. He took the body away that they had already rebuilt. And the Gump, was he upset about it? He was like, I've done this before.
I want to know more about the Gump's first life, because he is way too okay with some of the things that happen in his second existence.
I'd be on board for that.
Like, it's still better than what I went through the last time. He's like an Eeyore with like a positive attitude.
Very much like an Eeyore with a positive attitude.
He's like Eeyore if he was sarcastic about it.
Yes, all the same ailments and
Yes.
afflictions.
But instead of being
mopey,
he's like, yep, that's it. That's life.
there goes that body.
Yes, that's exactly what he's like. So he's about to eat Jack Pumpkinhead when the Gnome King stops because he hears a chicken.
Which at this point I've completely forgotten about, and I forgot there was a chicken in the pumpkin head.
The chicken, like the rest of us, is so terrified that it craps out an egg.
Oh, yes. And at the beginning of the movie, this was the payoff I was waiting for. He was going to get put in the stew pot or she was going to get put in the stew pot if she didn't start producing eggs. So,
Good character arc.
yep, she did it. It took fear. It wasn't the fear of getting put. Oh, that's another corollary. See, she was going to get put in the stew pot if she doesn't lay an egg, and then she was going to get eaten if she didn't lay an egg. So even the chickens have parallel lives in Oz.
The egg falls into the Gnome King's throat, and Gnome Kings, of course, are poisoned by eggs. Something that we all know from our Oz lore.
Everybody knows that.
Everybody knows it. Dorothy grabs her ruby slippers.
The Gnome King melts, and it's a
Yes.
fantastic melting process as all the faces in the cave start going just like poison as they melt. And there were rock monsters chasing people.
Monster.
She
She gets her slippers back. She saves everyone, restores the Emerald City, which I'm not convinced isn't its own personal holocaust.
Then she rode the lion,
Ozma
the cowardly lion.
is there as her reflection in the mirror. And she pulls her through the mirror, and then they're both just reflected in the mirror, which means it was saying nothing about her being the reflection. That's what it means, because then Dorothy gets her reflection back. Doesn't make any sense. And she sends Dorothy home like immediately. And Dorothy's like, whoa!
I want to say goodbye
I
first.
say goodbye to people. And then she like barely says goodbye to anybody.
No.
It doesn't seem like those slippers, like, it wasn't instantaneous anyway.
Did we see the Tin Man come back?
Yeah, he's there. He doesn't say anything, though.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
But he was there.
Says goodbye to everybody. This time does not tell Scarecrow she'll miss him most of all. Which is, I think, a kindness to the other freaks and oddities that we've met.
Yes.
And she gets back home and she wakes up in the dirt. Toto finds her. Uncle Henry's gotten off his busted ass and has found her. And Auntie M's there and doesn't apologize for any of this, but does inform her that the place burned down and that
lightning
evil
strike.
doctor died trying to save his patients? No, his machines. And they're taking the nurse off in the paddy wagon because of all of their failed experiments they were storing in the basement. Most horrifying thing I've ever heard of in my life. That is Silence of the Lamb shit. This was Buffalo Bill's plan in that movie.
Yeah, it was. So another movie that ripped off Return to Oz, that seminal work from 1985.
Dorothy's back home in her rebuilt house because Auntie M finally got Uncle Henry to get off his lazy ass. And looks in the mirror and she sees Princess Ozma, who she's going to use as proof to tell Auntie M I was right the whole time. And Oz was like, no, you can't tell anybody about us. I'm pretty sure because the lesson of this movie is that this sick, delusional girl has learned to keep her delusions to herself, or else she gets the hose again.
That's the lesson they all should learn. Everyone should learn at the end of every movie. Oh, when the Wheelers hit the desert of death or whatever it was, and they start turning into sand and you watch it, holy shit. That was terrifying. Because the Wheelers were really bad at stopping. Like hitting a wall. It's like how Sam tries to ice skate. Like put a 9-year-old on ice skates. The only way he's figured out how to stop is to fall on his knees or slam into a wall. It's whatever speed he's going, which is luckily not very fast.
The Wheelers were the orderlies, and they even reused the sound of the gurney with their wheels.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
There's two things I want to say about Return to Oz. Number one, fuck you for making this movie.
I really enjoyed it.
Number two, I think it's legitimately a great movie.
It is. I can't believe it. I went in because I haven't seen it before, and you haven't seen it since the movie theater. I didn't know how it was going to be. I assumed it might have some, but it was all like I had to write it down because I couldn't remember his name. But it was the Will Vinton stuff, the guy who did all the claymation. Do you remember the California Raisins claymation Christmas? He did those. He did the Noid.
I avoided that one.
Yeah, there was one. I don't know if you've ever seen it. But it made me remember it because it came out the same year. It was The Adventures of Mark Twain.
No.
It's a claymation one. Find it. There's one segment of it. I guess Mark Twain, I think the plot was they have to, and it's all done in that California Raisin Noid style. He took Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer, Becky Thatcher, I think, and he's flying them in his airship to go land on Halley's Comet to meet his wife, but blah, blah. There's a moment where they meet Satan, and it is the creepiest fucking thing ever. So I reckon it's The Mysterious Stranger, Will Vinton. It's really good stuff, but he does all of that, and that stuff is creepy, and he does it so well.
I'd like to think that the plot of that movie is like a superhero movie, where Samuel Clemens has to don his alter ego to save the world from that rock. What would you say he landed on?
Halley's Comet.
Save the world from that comet.
No, see, I don't remember because the only thing I really remember is the Mysterious Stranger part. But he was trying to land there because his wife who had died was there and he wanted to be with her again. And I believe he died the same year Halley's Comet came through. Like he was born on a Halley's Comet year and died on a Halley's Comet year.
How many years is it? 57 years?
76 maybe.
So it would have been 1910 or 1986.
Yeah, 1986, I know, because I went up and stood on the
that's right.
roof to take a look for it.
I'll never forget that it was 1986 again.
That's twice that I haven't seen it. Twice.
I know.
And I haven't even been around that many years. Where was I going with that? I don't know. Oh, yeah, but and then I think the kids didn't believe him, so they end up going against him, and it turns into it. But Satan's there, and it's creepy as fuck.
I think this was a legitimately great movie. And I don't even mean a good movie. I think it's a legitimately great movie. And I don't understand why it exists in the form that it does. As much as I joked that, like, this director, fuck you for ruining my life, I gotta give this guy the massive balls on this man to take a property like The Wizard of Oz and the expectations that come with it to make a sequel that's going into theaters, the first live action sequel that's heading to theaters this many years later. So now you have kids that grew up and have grandkids that watched it and kids that watched it.
Do you think so? Because I don't know anyone aside from you who's seen Return to Oz.
No, nobody went to see it. But that's not the plan when you're making it.
Yeah.
There's certain expectations. They throw in the ruby red slippers because they thought it'd be too confusing if she didn't have them, even though they had to pay a bunch of money for it. To take this and say, I'm making it more like the books, which are creepy and weird. They're this. To say, I'm doing it this way. I think the balls on that are extraordinary. I think his vision is completely captured on screen. I don't know why he hates children so much. But as an adult watching it, despite the fact that it did have a shiver in my spine almost the entire time because I knew enough. I didn't remember it in my brain, remembered it in my body.
Right.
Remembered it in my soul. And I'm watching it and I'm like, this movie's fucking good. It's interesting throughout. It's also an hour and 50 minutes, but it doesn't feel like it.
Looking at that, Fuck. I honestly, I could take away the whole weird, I'm going to electroshock therapy part. You could have just
No,
thrown me
you
into
can't.
Oz. You can just throw me into Oz, and I'm ready for this weird fucking movie.
I think you lose so much meaning in the movie if you don't have the terrifying opening.
But you got to understand, I'm trying to keep things at a tight 130. I'm not trying to go over 90 minutes, so I need to edit somewhere.
I bet you most of your favorite movies are over an hour and 30 minutes long.
Not lately. Some of those movies have been striking from my records because how dare they? How dare they go over 90 minutes? Like when you push 140, that's a little bit too long. That's maybe the highest. Like, so I was very worried going into this. Turned out I didn't really need to be because it was insane.
Yeah.
And it hits all the earmarks of the stuff I like.
There's no moment where you're watching it and going, this is the slow part, because there's another fucking crazy thing happening on screen.
And it's so oddly creepy, and the creep just keeps happening.
Even, like we said, like I would cut the beginning because you're annoying about your length of time. But even that, like you would expect, that's the slow part. It's 1899 in Kansas. No, that's when she's going for electroshock therapy, strapped to a gurney with broken-minded people screaming from the basement. That's the opening of the movie.
Abandoning your puppy, which is
it was
something that's gotta
horrible.
hurt when you're a kid. It hurts as a grown-up, but watching it as like if you're a kid and you see that, you're like, what the shit? That's the stuff that cuts deep. Being separated from an animal. I remember that when I was a kid. I used to hate any movie that did that. Well, I guess I still do. From A Quiet Place, day one, I was really worried about that cat. That was the person I cared the most about. Like Lupita Nyong'o, I knew she was going to die because she already told us that at the beginning of the movie. That British guy, I never understood a word he was saying, so I don't care about him. But that cat man, I was worried. So it was effective. This is a scary movie.
Do you think someone has a cat named Catman Struthers?
I hope so. I like to believe that there is.
I need to get a new cat because I want to name him Catman Struthers.
It's been a while since you've had a cat.
Yep.
You're a dog person now.
I don't think that my younger dog would do well with a cat. I think he would lose his eyes immediately.
he is too yippy for his own good.
Yeah. I can't have one as long as he's around.
That's too bad. That's a good cat name.
Catman Struthers. I love it.
That's good. All right, I got my credit check for you.
Go ahead.
There's not much. It's really the Will Vinton stuff. I was so excited.
I was going to say, I thought we just did this.
Yeah, no, there's not much else. There was a continuity coordinator. Sally Jones did that. And then for the second unit, there were 2 continuity checkers. So this movie apparently was on a very, very tight story. Like it needed to be told in the order it was. And I assume you needed to know where the chicken was at any given moment. Because there were probably scenes where the chicken was. Maybe that's what happened to the chicken. It was in the rest of the movie. And then one of the continuity checkers like, hey, you got to get rid of that chicken. So that's when they hit it in the head because it was always talking. I don't know. Just a thought. And then special thanks went to George Lucas and Robert Watts. I don't know who Robert Watts is, but I know George Lucas.
Do you know why George Lucas was thanked?
Of course I don't.
The director of this movie co-wrote that George Lucas movie before he made Star Wars, THX, whatever.
3000?
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's called.
I don't either.
And he'd also obviously worked with Francis Ford Coppola a bunch. He got fired while making this movie, the director, because they were like, "What the fuck are you doing with this movie?" And, appropriately fired. But he has powerful friends in Hollywood, George Lucas
friends.
and Francis Ford Coppola, and they went to the studio and said, "You gotta let him make the movie. He's, we believe in him." George Lucas went so far as to say, "If you don't like how it's going, I'll come in and direct the movie."
Ooh.
Which would have been quite the thing in 1985. He had just come off. I mean, he wasn't directing the movies anymore, but Return of the Jedi had just come out a couple years earlier. It's the biggest thing in the world. So they must have been like, I can't believe they didn't just find a reason to fire him again and be like, "You got to come in and direct the movie now."
I got to say, I'm really glad they didn't.
Me too, because I wouldn't have enjoyed a George Lucas version of this.
No, because George Lucas doesn't do the creep.
Well, he did make Howard the Duck the next year.
That was George Lucas?
Yeah.
No shit. I didn't know that.
So he does actually do the creep pretty good.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time. I just remember Taya Leone. Not Taya. Who was it? Who's in that movie?
Leah Thompson.
Leah Thompson. Thank you. I remember her, and I remember it's a talking duck, so it was funny to me.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen that movie since I was a kid.
And Jeffrey Jones is in it.
God damn Jeffrey fucking Jones. Every time, Brian.
Every
Every time.
Every time.
I hate that man.
And Tim Robbins.
I like Tim Robbins. He was in Jacob's Ladder.
He was, which just stole a lot of things from this movie.
It really
This
did.
Silence of the Lambs. They say that Silence of the Lambs was in Psycho, and I guess Psycho came first, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre came first. So they were based off Ed Gein. They were based off Return to Oz.
Well, that's who wrote the book first, the Psycho book or the Wizard of Oz book?
The Wizard of Oz book.
Well, then it did come first.
L. Frank Baum.
That sounds like something you put on your body as a beauty product.
Do you know that's why her name is Elphaba? Because the writer of the Wicked book named the character, and he wanted to do something to honor L. Frank Baum. So if you just take those first things, L. Frank Baum, Elphaba.
Oh, isn't that something?
Isn't it great, though, how it fits in perfectly as a Wizard of Oz word?
It does. It does. And I'm taking in this information. See, part of the problem I had is I really don't know this. I remember the Wizard of Oz. She goes to Oz. The witch is mad because her sister died. Mm-hmm. She's got flying monkeys. Mm-hmm. And then she meets the three people. I assume that there's apparently a munchkin hangs himself at some point on the set.
It was a bird.
A bird hung himself on the set, Bryan?
Hanging there. It was a bird. They had these weird large birds on set for the backdrops.
Mm-hmm. They had birds hanging themselves.
You
really
hanging.
think that
Nothing was hanging there?
You think that a bird committed suicide more than you think that a munchkin committed suicide?
Well, first of all, yes. Because I think I see birds run into windows and shit all the time.
But you think the bird tied a noose around its neck and then
there
jumped
was no
out
noose.
of a tree?
It was not a noose.
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah. Wait, are you saying someone did it to the bird? Because that's even worse. That's a murder now.
Yeah, they were crows.
Or was
murder of crows? That's what I landed on.
Oh man, that was a good one. I can't even be angry. That was some good stuff.
So you'd seen Wizard of Oz. You knew the bare bones story of the Wizard of Oz.
Right, and then I don't know anything about the continuation in Wicked. I know it starts with the Wicked Witch of the West being melted.
It's not a continuation. It runs concurrently with the movie. It's just what's happening. It's a prequel, and then the second half runs concurrently with the Wizard of Oz.
Well, yeah, because the first part you've got the melted witch, and then it goes back to ye olden times in Oz.
Yes, these are the 30 minutes you've seen.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at. I didn't know
it takes you back to wizard school, witch school.
Yeah, Hogwarts. Is there a Gump in it?
No, although now I got to say this. Having watched Return to Oz again for the first time in 40 years, I'm going to need Wicked Part 2 to have some callbacks to this motherfucker.
Did you see Wicked Part 1?
No, but I've seen enough reaction videos to know what's going on in it, and it looks like the best movie ever.
Man, a lot of singing.
Yeah, I know. That's pretty great. I told you I'm not paying $30 for it. I think it's $20 now, but I'm like, I've already waited so long. Just get me down to a nice 15. I'll buy it for 15. I don't know why I'm drawing this line. I paid $60 extra to play a golf game a week early that I've barely touched. So I don't know why the lines I draw are arbitrary and meaningless.
No, I get it. I understand that completely because I am the same way. For whatever reason, you assign a value to the movie, and what's your personal like? What's this worth to you? What are you going to be like? What's your breaking point?
The funny thing is, I would have paid the $20 to go to the theater to see it. I just never did.
Yeah, I know. We were supposed to go, but then Fred went with. I'm glad we didn't go because that would have sucked. I'd have been trapped.
I don't know. It looks really good. It looked really good to me. It looks good to me.
I saw her in the hallway.
So I wonder, Fred's a little older now, which is unfortunate because I wanted to put like a 6-year-old Fred in front of this. But she's not familiar with Wizard of Oz either. I think it's really important to be somewhat familiar with Wizard of Oz to care about the characters beforehand.
Well, she knows the bare bones and she's seen Wicked. So she's got that. She knows some of the characters, kind of, but not really.
None of them. She knows none of them.
I'm trying to think. Is there anyone?
Not one of them is in this. Well, technically they are.
You see him walking on the yellow brick road.
Well, yeah, too. But Fiyero is the Scarecrow, and Bach is the Tin Woodsman.
The fuck are Fiyero and Bach?
Well, you haven't seen it. Your daughter did. They're characters in this movie that get turned into those things.
Oh.
In the second one.
Bah.
Oh, spoilers for Wicked. in case you didn't know that, somehow watched Wicked 1 and didn't realize that those were the characters that become the Tin Woodsman and the Scarecrow.
Yeah, I was thinking. I'm taking in a lot of information right now.
You know what? I take it back. I don't want Wicked Part 2 to go into the Return to Oz. I want a musical version of a concurrent story happening in Return to Oz.
No.
I want the Princess Mombi story.
I am okay with coming back to these characters.
Pete, I would watch the fuck out of a Princess Mombi movie.
Wait, is she the protagonist or is she your?
I want to rewrite like Wicked, where we're going to make the bad guy the
prequel?
good guy.
So you're just talking about prequels here.
It's not a prequel. It runs concurrently. Half of it runs concurrently with the movie. You know,
Keep saying concurrently, but it's
because
a prequel.
it's going to run at the same time of the Wizard of Oz you saw from the perspective of the Wicked Witch of the West, who is not evil.
But the head lady is Princess Mononoke.
Well, in the original Wizard of Oz, so was the Wicked Witch of the West. So I want somebody with a lot of talent to go write me a musical where Princess Mombi's redemption story.
But even me, who doesn't remember this, recognized that the Wicked Witch of the West really didn't do anything wrong. She was just pissed that her sister got murdered. Like, that was my memory of it. And that might be influenced by people talking as adults since then. But
What
this
did
head
Princess
woman...
Mombi do wrong? Just stole some heads, threatened a little girl,
Okay.
locked her in a tower,
I forgot.
whipped on the wheelers.
Dismembered the Pumpkin Man.
Yeah, it was just remember the Pumpkin Man, forgot about him. Left him there to rot forever. He doesn't rot though.
She rode the wheelers. That was great. When she attached them to that chariot and starts whipping them, that's crazy.
The Wicked Witch was threatening. She said, "I'll get you, my pretty." Oh,
Yeah.
see, she thinks she's pretty.
Because she knows what it's like to be judged by appearances. Her of all people. So she can't be evil. I forgot who I was talking to, so yeah, I know.
I'll tell you one thing I thought about a lot while I was watching this was that Judy Garland is excellent in Wizard of Oz. She makes so much of it work for what it is. But I think I would have preferred it if a 10-year-old was playing Dorothy. Fruza Balk was great in this movie.
Yeah, what she did The Craft, and that's kind of all. And she was in, I believe, The Waterboy with Adam Sandler.
And she was in the same year as The Craft. She had her most famous turn as the cat girl in The Island of Dr. Moreau with Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer.
That's right. I remember because it seemed like she was really big for a minute.
Yeah, that was the minute.
I guess that
The minute where The Craft came out, right before Island of Dr. Moreau came out. That 2-month window was a real summer for her.
it's really funny because I'm watching this movie and I'm sitting there looking at her. I'm like, yeah, I guess she really, really gets more of a cat face when she gets older. But I forgot she was in the Island of Dr. Moreau. So that's what I'm remembering her adult face looking like.
With a literal cat face.
Yes.
I don't know what she's been up to. I know she has a cameo at the end of the Craft Legacy. They made a movie that I think was kind of positioned as a remake, maybe.
Oh, I vaguely
But
remember
then in the end, it
this.
turned out to be connected to it because her character appears.
And she's like, I'm the head witch.
Didn't see it. Didn't even see The Craft, to be honest with you.
What was that show that had the witches?
Charmed.
Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I got.
So, final thoughts on Return to Oz? You got Nicolas Cage news?
Well, that's my final thought. Let me see. It was kind of a wandering Nicolas Cage.
Well, I have Nicolas Cage news.
Oh, yeah? What's your Nicolas Cage news?
This fits in with an upcoming month of David Lynch stuff. Wild at Heart. David Lynch's favorite movie was The Wizard of Oz. And Wild at Heart is his most Wizard of Oz-like film.
That's the news that I found.
there you go.
It is. Well, I mean, that's it. There's a lot of...
Nicolas Cage Wizard of Oz, and it came up Wild at Heart.
Of course I did. But it also listed it's one of Nicolas Cage's like movies that really affected him as a kid. That and Pinocchio. Those two really left an impression on him. And then I was thinking, has Nicolas Cage ever been claymation before? And it turns out he has been claymation. Do you want to guess where he was a claymation guy?
In a movie.
No. It was on a TV show, an MTV show. And it was Celebrity Deathmatch, where they would take actors, not their voices.
Sometimes it was their voices.
Oh, yeah. I'm assuming this one wasn't because it was...
I don't know. You believe Weird Al Yankovic interviewed him for a fake interview show, so I don't know what you think.
That was real. I forgot about that.
Who do you fight?
He fought John Travolta.
Oh, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Did their heads pop off and switch during the fight?
Of course.
That's amazing.
But it's not good.
Did we write for that show?
Well, John Travolta wins because here's why we didn't write it, because he takes off Nicolas Cage's butt because it's his own butt, and he beats Nicolas Cage to death with it.
But did he win, or did Nicolas Cage with John Travolta's face win?
You know what,
You gotta
Brett?
ask yourself.
I was just reading a synopsis, so I really don't know who won. There was a lot of face-offing
Guessing
happening.
their heads switched at some point.
All right, so I don't know, but it's bullshit. So Nicolas Cage won that. I heard that show was garbage afterwards and never got good again.
I remember that moment in time where it was big and popular.
Yeah, right. Remember?
I do.
Didn't they do it during like a Super Bowl or something?
They did. They did a big one. Steve Austin was on it.
Okay.
Voicing himself, and it was like a big one.
Okay.
And I remember it peaking at that, and Mills Lane was the ref, and he voiced it.
All right. Well, it went downhill after this travesty of a Nicolas Cage match, which is
again,
nonsense.
I argue Nicolas Cage won with John Travolta's face.
Could have.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Although, as we learn, swapping the heads, you don't keep the same memories. So I guess with the head switch, he would just be John Travolta.
Well, that's because this is a whole head. In the movie, it's just a face. They keep their brains.
It's true.
So this was there, but the whole
I'm
head.
guessing they would pop the head off of these things.
I don't know. Maybe they just ripped each other's faces off and stapled them on.
Face
on.
off.
Face on.
Face off. Face on.
Head on.
Face
Apply
on,
directly.
Face off.
Yeah, that's fine. So Nicolas Cage has been claymation, and he really likes The Wizard of Oz. And I kind of want to see Wild at Heart now.
You can watch it whenever you want. It's not being covered on the podcast because I picked 5 other movies.
But you pick a Wizard of Oz movie, that's a Wizard of Oz. See, we can watch this Wizard of Oz with Nicolas Cage and then watch Return to Oz and see how it plays together.
I'm suddenly more bummed than ever that David Lynch has died because I know that Wizard of Oz was such a big thing to him, and yet I've never heard him comment on Return to Oz. And I need to know what he
his
thought
opinion
about
was?
Return to Oz.
I saw Nicolas Cage had a nice little thing about David Lynch saying how great he was.
Well, now that the authorities weighed in, I guess we can care that he passed away.
Yep. Now I feel sad. I'm bummed out that he's dead too.
We are going to be covering David Lynch movies in April, watching movies only slightly less weird than The Return to Oz, like Eraserhead.
I have not seen any of these yet, so I will be intrigued.
That's not true. We recorded one of them last week.
You broke the rules of time travel again. I did watch it. Which one do I think is weirder? Spoiler alert. I don't know.
I think this is weirder because it's coming with the expectations of a Wizard of Oz movie.
Which one am I going to watch again?
I'm watching the shit out of this.
I am very excited for the Wizard of Oz, Return to Oz.
I wish I could explain like this shiver in my spine that was there because it was there the entire time.
It's-
It was ingrained in me.
But it's a lot of the costumes, the claymation, all of that is really creepy when it's done right. I don't know what the hell was it with the skeletons, the claymation skeletons. I think is it Sinbad, the 7 Voyages of Sinbad, or one of them where like all of that I
Army of
remember.
Darkness.
Army of Darkness, right? Exactly that one from my childhood. But no, it adds to the creep factor. It's not like CGI, because CGI, you hit the uncanny valley. It's not even the uncanny valley. You just hit, it's fake. The technology doesn't hold up. Whereas claymation is always claymation.
This has to be one of the more understandable cult classics that there ever was because it was not well received for obvious reasons. Children were terrified by it for obvious reasons. And then you look back and go, what a fucking interesting take on The Wizard of Oz.
Is this a cult classic?
Yes,
I don't know.
100%.
Oh, awesome. I didn't know, because I didn't know that anybody
An
watches
entire
this
generation
movie.
of people who watched it on video, or like me, who was lucky enough to see it in the theater, they grew up haunted by it. And whenever they revisit it, I think they find out the same thing I found out. Like, it sticks with you, but also, it's a great fucking movie. Like, I was stunned at how... part of my memory of it was that it was going to be incompetent. Like, I felt like it had to be incompetent.
Yeah, yeah.
And, like, that's the joke. It's bad. It's not bad. It's great. It's like a well-made, credible film that is more interesting than it has any right to be.
I missed most of the plot because I was following just the visuals.
It's really simple. She's just trying to find the scarecrow.
Right. That's all who was inexplicably the king
Yes.
because of Reagan.
Yes, I think so. I think so. Nobody's going to tell me otherwise.
I'm in. I buy it. I'm excited to watch this movie again.
I am too.
I'm glad that you made me watch this one.
I'm glad I watched it again after 40 years, but I'll tell you what, I don't get frightened watching movies. When I hit play on this and the opening title started and the music was there, I was like,
that's fun.
I could feel it in my back. Like, oh no. Like my hairs are standing up on my arm because like I'm remembering the trauma.
Right. But a lot of the movies had that, right? I'm trying to think of like The Secret of NIMH,
Again,
The Never Ending Story.
All the ones you're talking about don't have the same thing. They don't have a character that is beloved by the people going to see this movie, getting tortured.
All right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then running into the scariest things, being chased by headless women.
Yeah. If I leave that out, like leave out
all the movies you're talking about are dark fantasies.
And that was a big thing.
This is too, but it doesn't, you don't know that when
Labyrinth?
you're going to watch it.
You haven't seen Labyrinth yet either, have you?
no.
No. It's very much in the same vein. Goddamn Dark Crystal, all of these. Like, these were the movies that, and all of them are unsettling. There's a tone to them.
Yeah.
Without even the childhood trauma that you have and bring to the table. It's there. You are unsettled when you watch these movies.
When you were watching this, I'm assuming the answer to this is yes, so you'll say no. Were you thinking at all during it, like, I see why this fucked him up? A 6-year-old sitting in a theater watching the hallway of heads and watching the Wheelers and watching the, you were like, were you at all surprised that it goes as hard as it does?
From the moment the Wheelers appeared,
Yeah.
I remembered them first off. I know these things from somewhere, but it is so visually stunning that you are taken aback. And then it just moves from, I got it. When the hallway of heads, I'm like, yeah, this is a legitimately scary movie. This is for a child to watch.
Yeah,
I get
especially
it.
again because
You're not-
it's when I mentioned at the beginning that The Wizard of Oz is the first movie I remember seeing twice. I was familiar with it. I remembered the story. I remembered the characters. So now I'm watching this and I'm like, everyone's turned to stone. There's the Tin Man. There's the lion. The Scarecrow's disappeared. Dorothy's being tortured. What the fuck? Toto's been abandoned. Like, what the fuck am I watching? Those are the characters I know. What the fuck am I watching?
Maybe the chicken was the parallel of Toto, and that's why Toto couldn't go this time. Did Toto talk in the first movie?
No.
What the fuck is she talking about? That's how you know you're in Oz.
She said she'd never been beyond Franklin before.
What is wrong with the unreliable narrator? I see.
Or is she admitting that it's all in her mind? There's layers to this.
Like an onion.
Yeah. All right. We're going to go. I am stunned at how much I enjoyed this movie.
I am nodding along with you.
I was enthralled by this movie, and I did not expect that at all.
I was trying to watch the end of it this morning, and the kids kept saying, Dad, we want breakfast. Dad, we need to get on the bus. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. I need to see how this ends. The chicken just laid an egg and killed a gnome king.
They don't make them like this anymore. This would never pass a studio's test. Disney's not being like, do what you want to do here. This is art.
Well, not Disney, but we did just get that Demi Moore movie, so
I know, but that's not
that's not a
major
kid's
studio doing this.
No.
Especially with an intellectual property as important as The Wizard of Oz, which is maybe the most famous movie in the world in 1985.
And this was before, because they've got that recent run of taking the intellectual properties and turning them into horror slasher films. This is decades before that concept even exists.
And this is far more effective than any of those have ever
I
been.
haven't seen any of them, and I have no interest, but if
I think they're getting better. I've said it before. I think they're getting a little wiser with it and more clever with it, the way that they're doing some of them. Some of them are terrible, but I'm going to see one tomorrow. It's going to be terrible.
Which one?
It's the third Mickey Mouse slasher that's come out so far.
Holy cow.
There's two more. And I saw the first Popeye one. There's two of those coming soon.
I knew there was Popeyes coming.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Mickey Mouse, super famous, one of the most popular, iconic things in the world.
Yeah.
Winnie the Pooh, first one to become public domain that was recent, but everybody knows Winnie the Pooh. What the fuck has Popeye been doing for 40 years? Why is Popeye getting 3 slasher movies just because it became public domain? Is there what fan base do they think they're drawing from? Well, the first thing I thought when I watched this Popeye movie was it's a bad slasher movie, but it's kind of an enjoyable bad slasher movie. Its problems are Popeye related. Number one, who gives a fuck about Popeye? Number two, it has nothing to do with Popeye. The whole story takes place around the famous Popeye house. You know, Pete, the big scary Popeye house, the Popeye house from the Popeye
The chicken
lore?
place?
No, just
A Popeyes chicken place? Like a house?
haunted Popeyes.
Holy, okay.
I would have taken
Pretty
that.
stupid.
That would have made more sense than what I got because of the famous childhood trauma that happened at the Popeye house. What?
My chicken was undercooked and I shit my pants right in line.
He doesn't talk like Popeye. Does have big forearms though, and he carries around an anchor and kills people with it. Enjoyable concepts. I enjoyed the bad slasher aspects, but every time there was a Popeye related lore, I'm like, why did you make this a Popeye movie? He's not even popular.
You make him a sailor, right? I think that could be fun. Acknowledge nothing about the past Popeye and just turn him like they turned Frankenstein from the book into...
Now I want the person that I'm commissioning to make the Return to Oz Princess Mombi sequel musical
prequel.
To write me a Popeye musical and turn the song popular into Popeye lore.
Okay.
Because this movie screws up the Popeye lore, and I want a song about Popeye lore. So whoever's doing that, just email us.
Yeah, or call the show.
Number's on the screen. All right, we got to go. I don't know. What was next week? Oh, my God, next week, Pete.
What are we doing? Did we do it already? Oh, no.
No, we didn't do it yet. Next week is a very special episode where we try to solve a mystery Scooby-Doo style.
Ooh, I like solving mysteries. I'm building a mystery.
I'm just thinking about dead dogs.
I know. I don't know why.
Why
I
did
brought
she
it up.
sign up for that? Because I can't hear anything without thinking about dogs on TV that are getting abused.
I was too sad to call the number to give them my money because all the tears in my eyes wouldn't let me see.
Do you know how fast I change the channel when I start hearing those bars?
Once I figured out what it was,
But why put your music in that place? I like Sarah McLachlan songs. They're pretty good. And then now I can't listen to any of them because I want to cry. Because everyone's like a Labrador just staring at me with tears in one eye. And like, oh my God.
it is, you want trauma. That was trauma.
That is drama. The episode next week is going to be us trying to solve the mystery of what the fuck is going on in the movie The Accountant.
Ooh.
And we're not going to do this in our normal way of watching the movie.
The
We don't
Accountant-
have any interest in watching the movie The Accountant.
We have only ever seen the last 7 minutes of
And
this
we are
movie.
going to watch them again and try to break down what the fuck is happening in The Accountant.
And we will never watch the whole movie because
No.
that is no fun.
Because I don't want to know what's going on in
No,
The Accountant.
but that last 7 minutes.
we're going to watch scene by scene backwards. So we're going to start with the final scene.
Okay.
And then we're going to rewind it and watch the last 2 scenes, and then rewind it, watch the last 3 scenes, back far enough that I know where to stop because I know where I've seen it from, and try to figure out what the fuck is The Accountant.
All right, I'm in. I haven't seen those 7 minutes in quite some time.
Me neither.
So I'm not going to pre-watch them. I'm just going to watch them with you and see what I think is. I know Anna Kendricks is there, and there's a home for autistic people.
And there's a wild shootout, and there's J.K. Simmons shows up to give a press conference.
Oh,
and
yeah,
at some
shit.
point,
There's a painting.
there's a painting, and at some point, what's his name? The guy from
John
Rock from
Lithgow.
Melissa. At some point, John Lithgow's there, and I never figured out what any of this has to do with each other because it feels like 7 different movies, and we're going to watch those last, I don't know, I say 7 minutes. I don't know how long it is.
It's about 7 minutes.
We're going to watch those minutes and try to decipher what the fuck is going on in The Accountant. And I know you'd think, like, oh, I can watch any end of the movie and it won't make sense. That's not true. That's not true. Watch the last 7 minutes of Return to Oz. You'll understand what's happening in Return to Oz by the last 7 minutes. She saves the kingdom and she goes home.
She gets sent home.
Watch, it's true, against your will. Watch the last 7 minutes of The Accountant and tell me what the fuck you think is going on. And then we're going to watch it in a certain way where I want to see how many genres of movies this seems to be.
A genre checklist.
Yeah. Because I think the first time I saw it, it was him driving away and Anna Kendrick opening a painting. Also, her name is Kendrick. You keep saying Kendrick. You said this for months on this podcast.
That's her
Which
name.
we've never done one of her movies, so I don't know why it comes up so often.
We did Anna and the Apocalypse.
Yeah, she's not in that. It's
It
Ella
was-
Hunt.
That was Anna
who I
Kendrick.
just saw as Gilda Radner in the movie Saturday Night. It's pretty good.
Did you hear about her cousin Ella Funt?
And Alan Funt does the camera. We've done the same road. We're following this yellow brick road to the fucking nowhere every time.
There's a gnome king and an egg.
What was I saying? I don't remember. That's a good way to end it. I don't remember what I was saying. See you next week for the last 7 minutes of The Accountant.
Yeah.
Give or take a minute.